Yep, I think that's it. Right. Um, Welcome. Thank you all very much for coming to From the Ground Up Pride in Place seminar. We obviously knew, my name is Nicholas Boyce-Smith. I'm not your chair. Eleanor, my colleague, is your chair. She'll introduce the panel in a second. We obviously knew when we scheduled this back in September that this morning the government would be launching more details on the Pride in Place programme. It was all prearranged. We all knew that. The upside is it's very pertinent. The downside is I've had to do lots of reading in the last 20 minutes to find out what's going on, which I may or may not understand. But look, probably most of you are involved or would like to be involved with the Pride in Place programme. I know from those of you I can see that some of you are. That's the context, but not really the full purpose of this discussion. The Pride in Place strategy, which was launched by Steve Reed on the 25th of September, locationed itself as this: high streets have changed beyond recognition, local pubs are boarded up, public services no longer reliable, people no longer in control of when they go out. And it quoted statistics such as 81% of people feel that society is more divided, and 68 that it's more divided than it used to be quite recently. So if you like, quite a melancholy context. But we at Create Streets, the Create Streets Foundation, many, if not all of you, know that community-led improvements in place, provision of housing, community control of assets, just daring to ask the simple questions: do you love this place? How can we make it better? How can we know our neighbours better? It really matters and cuts through lots of the waffle and the bureaucraties. So it's in that context we've pulled together some of the people we know from our work and our neighbourhoods are incredibly good at this. Not to say it must be done in that way, but just to share some ideas and some thoughts and some stories to prompt a discussion. Some of you will be getting involved with the Pride in Place programme and Impact Fund, the programme which was more announced today. Just to remind you, as you probably all know, up to £20 million spent over 10 years in 244 places. I'm not quite sure how they arrived at that nice round number, 244, 75, which were previously announced in phase one, which ran a bit over from the previous government's slightly comparable programme, and a further 169 in phase two, not led purely by the local council, led by board, where the chair needs to be agreed both by the local MP as well as the council, with three key aims of stronger communities, thriving places, and taking back control. All things that your speakers know a lot about. And with that, I'll be back at the end, but I shall hand over to my colleague Eleanor.
Thank you, Nicholas. Hi, everybody. I'm Eleanor Broad. I'm Associate Director at Create Streets. And part of the sort of inspiration for doing this webinar is also because we run a programme called the Place Champions Programme. And the Place Champions Programme is funded by charitable donations. But just quickly let you know what that's about, and that's sort of the context for a lot of the speakers as well. It's a programme where we work alongside groups, individuals who want to change their place, so who want to make it a more beautiful, healthier, happier place. And we go through a process that we call walk, talk, draw, and increasingly do. So that means we go to the place, we walk about, we try and understand the place, we try and understand some of the key issues. We then talk with residents, sit down, understand those issues in greater depth, and then in some cases do the design, because obviously ultimately we are urban design amongst other things here at Create Streets. But increasing, as I said, we're actually doing and going from design to actually implementation, or in the case, for example, of East Marsh United, going from suggesting that we should green the marsh to actually helping them plant trees and raise money. So that's our Place Champions programme. We have worked with a number of different groups. We're currently, I think, working with 4, but we're hopeful we're going to be getting some more funding soon. And so we will be opening applications for more Place Champions. So do keep that in mind. And we've got a number of criteria, but we can talk about that later. So to today and our speakers. So we have 5 speakers, each with 5 minutes. They're sort of, as Nicholas said, we've worked with all of the 5 in various guises. And they're sort of at different stages of, so Brian, who's talking first, has been working for 25 years, I think, on this, others for 10, 6, so different stages of sort of achievement and also development. So hopefully relevant to lots of you on the call. So I shall quickly run through who we have. So we've got Brian Dorr from Safe Regen in Bootle. So he's been working there since 2007. It was originally set up by a group of artists. So started off as murals and regenerating what I love is local grot spots. And so from a start in the arts, they have now fully expanded into building homes and businesses. And we've been working specifically with Brian on plans to refurbish a church in Bootle and also build homes on site. Then next we have Greg Fittock, who I think we first came across because he came to the Create Street Summer School just a few years ago. And he has started a really impressive campaign for his village near Brighton, looking at sort of reinserting the human back into what is called a village but doesn't feel like a village, and sort of references a lot of the work that we've done recently on highway halves or on a road between us, for those who have read that. And so we've been working with Greg on community engagement and understanding what local residents feel about where they live, so that he can kind of be armed with the data to make some of these changes. Then we have Roxanne DeBow, who's from the Cambridge Cycling Campaign. Slightly different focus, but a really critical focus for us, because it's about movement and how people get around their places, which is an absolutely critical element of being happy in a place, is that it should be easy and effective and enjoyable to get around. Roxanne is the CEO of CamCycle, which she's been running for 10 years, I believe. It's a local cycling charity in Cambridge, apparently the cycling capital of the world, of the UK, not the world, of the UK. And so she has great experience in the quality and the importance of the type of consultation in terms of impacting neighbourhoods and working with communities to create better solutions for how you get about your towns. And then we have George Atzev. So George is from Chatham in Kent, and he has been an integral part of the Arches Local for over 6 years, starting, I believe, when he was a student as a one-man PR social media guru for the Arches Local, which he might explain, but it's one of 150 communities in the UK that was given £1 million directly to residents, to the community, to spend as they see fit. So they have run a whole host of different activities he'll talk to you about, but we've started working with them on a neighbourhood plan and various other design work with them over the years, but also some of the greening. But just to give you a kind of sense of their determination and where we really realised what effective group they was they were looking to plant trees along grass verges along the streets to try and humanise the streets, but weren't getting a hugely enthusiastic response from landowners and council, and decided, right, well, we're just going to go and get ourselves certified to use CAT scanners to understand what utilities are underground. So they bought scanners, got themselves certified, and started scanning and digging the tree pits themselves. And they have evidence to show now, having planted trees. And then last but certainly not least is Billy Decine, who is the Chief Everything Officer, or Chief Empathy Officer, I think, at East Marsh United, which is a community group on the East Marsh, the former docks area of Grimsby. And Billy and a series of neighbours set up East Marsh United, I think about 6, 7, 8 years ago, to try and do something to improve the area that he and the neighbours lived in, ravaged after the collapse of the fishing industry in Grimsby. I will let him tell you in depth about the wonderful things they've achieved. But for starters, I believe as of maybe the last couple of days, they actually own 15 homes on Rutland Street, which is a core street there. And we have been working with them on a number of things, but mostly on a programme to green the marsh. And so we are trying with them to turn what is a rather desolate street with not a single blade of grass from Rutland Street into what we call Rutland Avenue. And we've come across quite a few challenges, which I think might be redundant of lots of the challenges that groups can talk about. But without further ado, and I'm exactly on time, and I am giving each of the speakers 5 minutes. So Brian is going first, and please, given how many people there are now 190 of you, given how many people in the audience, please could you put questions into the chat, and Nicholas and I and Lauren and Constance who are here will try and gather them up and somehow turn them into a few precise questions at the end. So Brian, can I hand over to you? Unless I've missed anything. Have I missed anything, Nicholas, Constance? No? Fine. Okay. Please go ahead. Brian.
Thank you on that. I'm just going to make sure that I'm in presentation mode. Can everyone see that okay? That's good. It's a good start, isn't it? So, hi everybody. My name's Brian Dorr from an organisation called Safe Regeneration. I started the organisation 25 years ago. And we set up because we were a bit fed up of being done to and not with. So we began to organise ourselves as a group of artists and creatives. And in that time, we've done quite a bit. And there's a bit of an overview here. We've acquired a community pub, a community business centre, knowing the story of where artists go to places where nobody else wants to be, animate it, create life and energy, and then normally the developers come in and say, "Thanks very much. Can you move along?" So we can get on to serious regeneration stuff. So we know owning assets is a big part of that. Business support is a big part of our work, and we've recently established a relationship with a large housing association. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. So, from a small pub in Bootle, we now run large-scale music festivals. This year, we just announced yesterday that we have um, Waterboys and we have Nile Rodgers joining us in the summer next year, which is fantastic news. We won multiple awards along the way. But it's not just about large scale events. It's about the number of groups that gather there. We have walking groups, ukulele groups, obviously, um, um, and all manner of groups. We also have a cheese club once a month, Cheesy Tuesday, every first Tuesday of every month, if you're ever up our neck of the woods. And so a lot of the events and the festivals that we run continually sell out, and we run a number of free events. And it's also important, the other end of the scale, that we run a warm spaces facility as well. That enables people to come in and have hot food and drink in a destigmatized kind of setting. The Canoe Club, as we are based upon the canal, this is a really interesting example of what we do. We help people to set up their own businesses, and then once they're in the position, once we've established the need for that, we kick that entity out, and we continue to support that organisation for people to deliver for themselves. As I said before, our background is in the arts, and we constantly use art as a vehicle to engage. Primarily, it began with the creation of public artworks, which is a great kind of way of creating permanent positive reminders of improvements that have within the communities that we work with. Just quickly on this one, this was created in a dementia setting. So we actually took a fairness into a dementia setting, into a hospital, which I'm absolutely surprised that they let us do that, but there you go. And so, as I mentioned before, business support is a big part of our work, and so we help local people to establish businesses. A lot of those businesses we continue to work with. We have a small core team of three. So by developing people and local businesses, we then act as the conduit for funding, and we subcontract community engagement and cultural programming through the facility. This is kind of, I have to give co-credit with this. A young lady called Bex Trevelyan helped me kind of crystallize this. This is our journey. This is our story of when we began. We didn't have any concept of what we were trying to achieve, but our first development, the school, then gave us the appetite and the understanding that asset was really important in terms of our growth and development. And so we acquired the pub, and then we've acquired land around us, and we're now beginning to vision what a neighbourhood might look like if we were to design it. Again, these are lots of different events that we run on the canal that just demonstrate the power of creativity and cultural programming in our work. This is this is an important kind of demonstration of how we've managed to develop a strong relationship with our local council. The Sultan's Heart is one of their facilities. They're now working alongside us to deliver their programme on our site. And we're also looking at a cultural programme for the wider town being led by the community. We've been through planning once for the site. We managed to get £750,000 from local governments. We went through planning. We failed, guess what, on parking and on public community space because we wanted to create a community space, communal space more so than large garden spaces. We have managed to identify a housing association to work alongside, and we're in the process of, or we're currently in the planning performance agreements to build 150 homes and rebuild our facility on a canal side. So we continue to have a presence on site. And that's the uniqueness of our work, is that we will work alongside, and we're staying, we're not going anywhere as a landowner. So these are various images from the scheme that failed. But this is interesting in terms of what we do now, as we support other communities to help them understand the complexities of community asset acquisition and development. Our relationship with the Church of England is very strong in that we now support the diocese and the asset disposal team to identify groups and communities that they can work alongside to ensure that the developments are in line with local need. And if there is an opportunity to, well, then the ownership is retained within the community as well. So our partnership is really important. And as it says there, everything we've ever achieved has been in partnership. It's not always been easy to work with local council, but our relationship now is really strong. And we're now in the process of looking at how we can assist in the development and the delivery of the Pride and Places programme and the Trailblazer programme, one of which, or both of those programmes have been.
Oh, sorry. Is that us or is that Brian? It's Brian.
Continue to place the cultural programming as a really important part of the community engagement strategy. I'm not sure how I'm doing for time.
I think, I'm afraid, Brian, you're kind of done.
Excellent, but that's
so
me.
Is that you? Thank you, Brian. Oh, I'm not sure if it's us or it's a bit of a glitch. Thank you so much, Brian. It's just overwhelming how much you've done. I think we will go to, if you can stop sharing, or maybe we could do should we do a quick question whilst we have you here? There's a question in the chat. I'll do a quick one. You mentioned working with the Church of England, their asset disposal scheme. Is that to use old church buildings or repurpose the space?
It's both. It's both. And we're working on a project in Preston, which it's a grade 2 listed building. We've actually in plan at the moment to deliver 21 homes in there. But then there's another site in Nedley where it's a 1960s church and it's not fit for anything other than demolition. We'll demolish that and then we'll build new homes there. So it's a range.
Maybe we'll save more questions for later. I certainly think around funding, it would be really interesting for groups that we've worked with who are earlier on in the stage to understand how you've managed funding and how you've grown so much over 25 years. But I think we will, there is a question exactly that in the chat. Maybe you can hold that for later. We will move to Greg. So if you can stop sharing, Brian, which maybe we have, and Greg, do go ahead and share. Thank you so much. Brian. Oh, perfect. Here you go. So you might need to unmute yourself, I think, Greg. Once you start speaking, then I should see you come up on the video, but at the moment I can still only see Brian. Are you unmuted, Greg? We can see your images.
Greg.
Oh yes, Constance, maybe you can unmute, Greg.
Is that better?
Ah, there you go. Thank you. I will mute myself and over to you.
Okay, my name's Greg. Thanks for that, Brian. That was incredibly inspiring, actually. You mentioned you've been going for 25 years. We've been Renew Preston Village has been going for about 3 years. We are quite proud of our progress to date, though. We have made 30,000 impressions across web and print. We've got 2,000 active respondents across all platforms. And we're gathering momentum. We've got support from 2 churches, community interest groups, the local school PTA, sports clubs, and 21 local businesses. And we have managed to make progress because we've generated local interest and local resident volunteers have come out, including people specifically with really valuable skills like a traffic engineer, a public realm consultant, a town planner, and an architect. Now, Preston is halfway between the South Downs and Brighton. we started the campaign because myself and another chap individually found these signs, but when we followed them to the conclusion, there was no village. This is what we found. The road you can see is the A23 that runs between London and Brighton. So just a bit of context, the village, Preston Village, has got a bit of history, pride in place and all. It was first recorded in the Domesday Book in 1086, visited by the Archbishop of Canterbury in 1230. It was a big cheese at the time, so it meant a lot. 1711 was the first pub. 1831, the scene of a famous murder, and in 1838 it was connected by the train line to London. In 1928, 80 years later, it was merged into the Unitary Authority, or it merged into Brighton and Hove. Preston Village is really unique because you saw the state of it earlier, but it's got an enviable concentration of civic assets with churches, sports facilities, tourism sites, leisure facilities, but they're completely unconnected and they're completely underutilized. The other challenge with Preston Village as it stands at the moment is it's unidentifiable, either ceremonially or administratively. In Google Maps, I'm fighting a battle online to get it recognised. There is a conservation area which outlines the wrong place, and there's a rather unsexy parking map defining Preston Village. But apart from that, it's not defined at all. It is defined, unfortunately, locally by a Shell and Sainsbury's, and ironically, these are the only two things I couldn't get off the Google map. Preston Village has got lots of challenges, as well as the road you saw earlier and its associated noise and air pollution. There's quite a lot of flooding. There's a culverted river that runs underneath it, and the pedestrian experience is absolutely awful, as you can imagine. You can see it there, the historical village, which has been pushed aside. And the east and west side of the village, the west side being on the left-hand side, have been completely torn apart, and we are aiming to reconnect those two sides. You can see here the village. This is before the wall on the right-hand side was removed in 1931 for road widening. What are we proposing then? We're proposing really just that the council and the Department for Transport reduce 6 lanes to 4, so there's space for walking, wheeling, shopping, chatting, eating and drinking, all of the things that the community deserves. There we go. Our traffic engineer with delighted he has identified 3.3 tennis courts worth of space in the village on that roadway, and so we have as a team set about trying to convince the council to take 2 of those lanes pretty much and convert scary crossings, small pavements, a lack of trees and poor cycling infrastructure into something rather more abundant, with raised table road crossings, wide pavements, studs and curb segregated cycle lanes. It's another shot of the village, and the pub established in 1711 there in the centre. We have produced a scheme collectively to turn it into somewhere that's rather more friendly, better for both the community, the environment, and the local economy, for all of the reasons that you'll all understand. Finally, the AI is good for some things. This is just a season greetings from Renew Preston Village, and I will stop there so I don't run over time.
Thank you so much, Greg. Again, I can't believe it's only been a couple of years. I was having another look at your website earlier, and the website is phenomenal. So I also would encourage anybody who hasn't have a really good look at your website, because there are so many resources on there. It also occurred to me that I didn't know this, that one of the core members of your team was a highways engineer of the campaign. And given how often we struggle with that aspect of things on a lot of our projects, maybe that's a core learning, is to engage a highways engineer on any community group from the get-go. Are there any other particular questions now? I think one that did come up earlier, but maybe you could answer it, is what you've done about funding, because it's that sort of, I think we've seen this quite often, it's that first step. There'll be one person who's got an idea and a vision, but to go from that to having such a professional website and being able to produce collateral and so on does take some funding, assuming. So I wonder maybe you could just briefly talk about how you manage that.
It's probably been self-funded by the volunteers. A few, 2 or 3 people have chipped in, and we're just running the website and have paid for a few car stickers and leaflets. So it's been probably the total cost has been about £2,000 so far. And we're sort of quite pleased with the reach we've got, but that's really down to the local interest and specifically the local media that have supported it. Because as our traffic engineer describes, it's a no-brainer.
Amazing. Thank you. Well, actually, it's a good segue maybe onto Roxanne, speaking of roads and how we share space and share that public space between cyclists, pedestrians, drivers, private drivers, public transport, and so on. So, Roxanne, I'm not sure if you're ready to share your screen from Cambridge. I think
there we go.
Started. Thank you. Thank you so much. Over
Brilliant.
to you.
Have you got that? I'm so
There's a
happy.
black screen right now.
Greg needs to stop share.
Oh, I think Greg needs to stop.
Okay.
Greg needs to stop. Sorry, Greg needs to stop screen sharing. Thank you.
How are we looking?
Oh, I think. Yes. Okay, I can't quite see it, but others can. Okay, go ahead, Roxanne. Yeah. Okay, got it. Yep.
Wonderful. I'm so pleased to be going after Greg. That was really inspiring, Greg, and is just so relevant to what I'm going to talk about. So hi everyone, I'm Roxanne. I'm the CEO of CamCycle, Cambridge Cycling Campaign, for just a few more months. So I will just say that Anna, who will become our CEO in 2026, is in the chat also. So hi Anna, thanks for being here today. I've been asked to talk about improving active travel, but I will say that for us, it's not just about the active travel, it's about what that does for us and our communities and quality of life. And here is a piece of active travel infrastructure, and I don't think you could see a community that is more proud of a bridge, and we'll get to why. So we only have 5 minutes, so I'm going to dive in immediately with the conclusions. So you can think about those, and we'll see how far we get through the rest of the presentation. And I'm focusing today more on how rather than the what of what we do here in Cambridge. And the things I would urge everyone to do is to think much more broadly than you might realize in the very, very early stages. It's so important to have a vision and start with what you want it to feel like to live and move somewhere, and be genuine and intentional about delivering that vision. Bringing the community in much, much, much earlier than you think. This often happens way too late. Communicate, engage, and the other side of that is listen. It's a two-way engagement. There's so much that you can learn from your community. I would urge people to build their allies. There are really unusual partnerships out there that you can create, and don't dismiss your critical friends. Actually helping them to develop can be a real asset, and they can help even if you don't agree on everything, because constructive conflict can result in better outcomes. Now, I don't normally like just reading the slide, but I wanted to get the conclusions out, and we'll talk about what we do. So CamCycle is in Cambridge, or Greater Cambridge. We are the cycling capital of the UK. 45% of residents are cycling at least once a week. In Cambridge, at least a third of journeys are being cycled. And who is CamCycle in the mix of all this? We are a local charity. We've got over 1,650 paid up and subscribed members. We've been going for 30 years. We have 5 permanent staff plus various interns, contractors, and external support, along with all of our amazing volunteers who help us do what we do. The question will come up. We have £250,000 of income a year at this stage. We plan to have more, and that comes mostly from donations and contributions from our community. It's very complicated here. No time to explain it. There are so many layers of local authority that need dealing with. There's a reason CamCycle is so busy just trying to help people understand that. Our approach is to make sure we have a strong vision about what we think our region should be like. You can find all of this on our website. I won't go into it. Here's our strategy though. We help shape the vision. That's the big picture vision for our region, but also we help community groups. For example, maybe a group like Greg's that he just presented, we can come in and say, we've got ideas of how you could create that street with the active travel, but also all the other pieces. We try and empower our community, the various groups. They might not know how to do the drawing or how to make the press release or get the photos in the paper and get the community on board. So we can come in and help them with that expertise. We don't like to just do it to the community. We like to help the community empower, advocate for their own solutions. And we deliver solutions. And we have got an engineer on our staff team. And let me tell you, that makes such a difference that we're able to actually go and create those technical drawings. And that's something that can really start to make the difference. Some examples of where this has worked. Oh my goodness, my favorite, the Chisholm Trail. We had this vision, you'll see on the left, in 1998, and in 2021 it became a reality, and that has been through persistent, consistent efforts from CamCycle and the community over all that time to bring in the stakeholders, shape what it might look like, work. Oh my goodness, I can't tell you the number of stakeholders it's taken over the years to bring this around. And a gratuitous picture of my cute dog in the bike basket, because we use that bridge every day. And what this has done is not just help people cycle, it's connected communities that were disconnected. It's giving people access to the train station, to places of work. It's a place to socialize and hang out around this bridge. I cannot explain the huge range of impacts that a piece of active travel infrastructure has had for Cambridge. Other examples, when the councils tried to create quite a poor design, oh, be careful because we might come after you with a pants leaflet. But this is where you can see that part of helping to create a vision of this could look better, actually having the technical ability to do the drawings, but we're working with the local people to sort of get that movement around that campaign. I put this in because it's quite funny. But that's one small junction. This is an entire development that has changed the lives of the generations of people that will live there. This is Waterbeach Newtown. I really recommend you Google it. There's some great webinars out there about what we've done. We got in at the absolute earliest possible land use planning stage and turned things around. This would have been in any other development of the UK, but now it's one of the leading examples for active travel infrastructure, and people are coming from all over the country to look at it. And it was CamCycle being allowed to come in and work with those developers and bring in that thought leadership that changed this. It's not just cycle lanes, it's everything down to where do you put the school, where do you put the roads, how does this connect to the train station and the wider region. Mill Road, you can see similar to what Preston was doing. We've done those visualizations and we're starting to get a bit of momentum on that vision now. It's a very long story we don't have time for. I'll just hint to, for active travel, we need to make sure we don't stay in our silos. So we work with the Cambridgeshire Sustainable Travel Alliance to show the importance of bringing all those forms of transport together to create a better city. You can find out more. I really recommend you can read our annual report, Where Does the Money Come From? Our quarterly magazine is on our website. Some great examples there and contact details. And of course, Anna's there, new CEO in 2026. And I highly recommend looking at our latest magazine, this article by our engineer, infrastructure campaigner, Josh, Going Places, will tell you a lot about the work that we do. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Roxanne. I have to admit, you've sort of made it seem as if it's quite easy. And I just wonder if in your 10 years, whether what maybe shifted it to make it easier, if anything.
I wouldn't say it's become easier. I would say that we've become more resourced to deal with the challenges. In many ways, it's become harder. There is so much interest in the growth of our region. There's we're the Silicon Fen of the UK, and there's a lot of economic benefit that could be grasped from our region, and they're looking at doubling the size. With all that development with East-West Rail and so on, there's so much that we need to be tackling at the strategic level, but we can't let things drop at that small local level. So really, it's about being more resourced. We can't keep up with the workload, even with that many staff. So I think we've got better at what we're doing, but I don't think it's become easier as such.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then just quickly, maybe on conflict, I know you mentioned it at the beginning. What's your sort of advice on managing conflict between different parties, especially in the world of active travel, which can come up?
Yeah, I think it's those recommendations at the start, is having a vision and don't come in and start with telling people what they're going to have to give up or lose. So often a consultation will start with a complicated technical drawing that people don't understand. They get scared and they see that their parking bay is going to be taken away. And there's no vision, literally not even a visual, let alone any kind of description of, we want to make your high street more vibrant. We want it to be like this, that, and the other. Do that vision work, talk to people and listen to them, create that, and then start moving into the technical work. But often we find engagement just starts with the technical, and you lose people. And once that polarization and that argument starts in the community, and that's the story of Mill Road, which could take all day really.
Right.
Once that starts happening, it's really hard to turn it around. It can be done, but it's a long journey.
Yeah, it's almost making sure that that engagement is actually meaningful, that it's not just that tick box exercise, and that you're coming in, as you say, early enough before solutions such as technical drawings have been developed. So people feel as if they actually are being listened to as opposed to because they have to be listened to.
Yeah, and they should be, because they will have brilliant ideas. It's not just let's listen so we can get our plans through. It's let's listen because we could learn something.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, Roxanne. Speaking of ideas and brilliant people on the ground, George, are you there?
Yep.
Great, over to you.
Thank you very much. Afternoon, all. Thank you for the introduction at the start there, Eleanor. Can you see the screen?
It's coming. Yes, there.
Perfect. So just a bit of background. So I'm part of the Archdeaconal team. We are a entirely community-led, resident-led organisation here based in Chatham, just out from London. We are part of that big local programme, as Eleanor described, 150 areas, given £1 million to spend back in 2012, over a 10 to 15 year period. So when you thin it out over such a long period of time, it's not a great deal of money. And particularly when you look at the impact fund through the Pride in Place programme, some of those areas are getting around the same figure for a much shorter period of time. What we do, I'll go through some of the projects. We do a lot of placemaking projects, looking at how we leave a tangible sort of legacy leaving mark on our community, bringing the community alongside with us on changing the area. The area is very urban, very so many terrace streets. Even recently, looking at the latest IMD data, some of the parts of our neighbourhood have worsened in that. So we still remain in the top 10% most of the private neighbourhoods. And really, there's very little for people to be proud of in this area before sort of the work we've started doing. It's a former dockyard town that the dockyard closed back in 1980. So since then, it's just been quite tricky to bring about more sort of long-term regeneration. So one of the first projects I spoke
George, I'm not sure your slides are moving on, or maybe you haven't got to them yet, but got it.
Yep. So one of the first projects that we spoke about, this even before I joined Archdeaconal, was around this 8-ton former water fountain, drinking water fountain, that was based in the centre of our community. The ambition of the community was to bring it back to our neighbourhood. It was dumped in the 1960s in the corner of a cemetery 2 miles away from our neighbourhood. And over those years, there were a lot of conversations about bringing it back. The local authority were determined to help by putting aside a budget which was actually a fraction of what was actually required in then. So literally last year, within an 8-month period, we kickstarted that sort of serious process of returning it to the community, allocated the budget, and so we're going to get it done finally. So it was a long-term campaign, but we got there, and that's really been a symbol for the local community around bringing back something that gave residents a reason to be proud of their neighbourhood and a bit of local history. Another piece of work they've been doing is public art, and particularly around murals. So again, this came about through conversations with residents around how much history there is to the area, and we're not doing enough to celebrate that in the public realm. So we have a few art galleries here in Chatham. Again, we are close to London, so you can go and see quality art of this sort of scale, quite easily there. But here on the doorstep for communities, they don't have that easy access. Many residents don't have the time, or namely the financial resource, to go to these establishment. So we thought about bringing that high quality, world-class art to the doorstep of thousands of residents. We've done just shy of a dozen, or about 12 or 13 murals to date, working with artists from the UK, but also from abroad, from Germany, the Netherlands, and from France as well. And these have all been around bringing some sense of pride into the neighbourhood, celebrating local stories, both historic and contemporary. As you can see, we've also, over the years, worked up in scale. And that's something that's been important for us, is scalability. So working from 2-story terraced or end of terrace properties to 4-story blocks, where we've been working with a local housing association to secure some of these walls. But it always leads to residents. Residents have to give their permission. Do they want a mural on the side of their wall? All the stories are suggested and submitted by the community. And then we give that to the artists. We give them creative license and say, you've got a choice of these stories. Go and create something that's based on those stories. And we always, see some really top quality art. And so this is one of the more recent pieces, again, on a 4-story block there. I think it's also worth saying that we've never done any of this stuff before. We are new to this as well. We're not professional artists. We've never done murals before. So we've learned alongside residents on this journey of how to deliver a program like this. And as Eleanor discussed earlier on, was some urban greening projects that we've been doing. So it started off with a lot of the safe option, I would say, of planting in verges. They are a lot more available than planting here on sort of the side of streets. And again, through trying to raise that level of ambition, saying, if other communities across the country can have this, why can't we? And for us, it was really important to show what's possible, because for many residents, they won't know what is possible out there. So at this point, we've got, again, around 60 to 70 trees in verges over the years. And over the last 2 to 3 years, we've been planting on the roadside. So street trees, we've got about 15 to 20 street trees. And we've literally just planted the latest phase 2 weeks ago. So these are the photos that have been were completed recently. And also looking at rain gardens. Again, something that hasn't been done in Medway before. But again, an ambition that's been with us for quite a while. So it's been around changing perceptions of the area, both for us and more importantly, internally, raising that level of ambition for people, showing what is possible. And above all, the sort of projects that we do, when they're tangible, it's easy to tell to people, well, this is what we're doing. We'd like to see more of this. So that's been a really effective way for us to gauge what people would like to see delivered in their neighbourhood and what they like to see sort of delivered differently as well. So that's sort of a very brief overview of some of the work that we've been doing. As Eleanor said, we've also done a neighbourhood plan, Kent's first urban neighbourhood plan, which is more on sort of policy making side of things, but that's been also really influential in delivering high quality planning outcomes for the neighbourhood. So thank you.
Thank you, George. That's amazing. We haven't actually been in touch for a while, so I hadn't seen some of those pictures. It's amazing to see some of that planting, because when I started at Create Streets about 4.5 years ago, I remember Robert on our team had done some of the designs or pictures of what a street could look like, and to actually see them happening on the ground and planted is amazing, especially in the context of other places where we're still struggling. I just had a quick question, which is around, well, I suppose it's relevant both for murals and for trees, was around something that comes up often, which is around vandalism. How do you know that people aren't going to come and spray paint over your beautiful mural? How are they not going to come and knock down the trees, rip up the planting and so on? I don't know if you experienced those challenges, and if so, how you dealt with them.
I think it's a really good question, because it's probably the question we get asked the most. Or if we're doing a mural, there will be a very small minority of people living in the area that might say that won't last a day. None of the trees have been vandalized. They've been with us for 5 years, some of them. The murals, they've been around for first one that we did was for 2 years. Again, it hasn't been touched. I think, as I said earlier, when there's so little for people to be proud of in our neighbourhood, when something of high quality is delivered by the community, that really beds in a sense of ownership. And it takes time. It is something that takes a long time for stewardship to develop. And in an area like this, it is challenging, but I think slowly but surely we are achieving that. And so I think, yeah, that sense of ownership ultimately is always really key for making sure those sort of things don't happen, as we've seen.
Yeah, thank you. I think, Billy, did you actually have your hand up when you were allowed to, as a speaker, ask a question? But if not, I will go straight to you, and we'll save any other questions till the end. But thank you so much, George, and over to you, Billy, from Grimsby.
Thanks, Eleanor. I'm not going to talk so much about East Marsh United. I'm Billy from East Marsh United, or EMU. I'm actually going to talk about the Pride in Place programme and a bit about our background and how to ensure that this money delivers. I'm calling it the secret sauce versus the system. Lessons for Pride in Place. So a bit about East Marsh United's work. It's really all about human flourishing and about surviving and reviving our own neighbourhood. And our origin is simple. In 2017, we faced real social breakdown around here. We waited for help, but it didn't come. So 16 of us locals stepped up. We learned that the answer had to be everything, all at once, all the time, tackling systemic breakdown upstream. And I'm only going to share one diagram here. This is our organisation's organogram. Just figure out the share thing. There we are. So essentially, this is the organisation we've built. This is our gang doing the work where we are. You can see the different work streams that we have. And the idea behind this, a normal organisation chart, is very hierarchical. Well, we think that is problematic. And this one shows a relational connection. The inner circle supports, the outer circle delivers. And it strongly illustrates our philosophy. How you get to the future is the future you get. And our focus is on agency, self-determination, and, as I said earlier, human flourishing. So I'd like to talk now about that secret sauce. We think we've found it. Hand on heart, in the last couple of years, I think we've found it. And it's not money. It's local power combined with vision. And it's something like collaborative leadership. We believe we know how to transform our neighbourhood. So the context, one of the biggest problems for the East Marsh in Grimsby was that houses were sold off by the council in the noughties and bought up essentially by casino capitalism, where people saw the houses for their exchange value with no thought for their use value. So nothing in the houses that was broken was ever fixed. And so people naturally just left. They moved on, and there was a constant exodus, a community influx. And we are resisting that by buying houses ourselves. We have a project, 100 houses for 100 years. We now have 15, which means that 15 families on the East Marsh now have forever homes in trust to the people of the East Marsh, forever. And we know that this works. So here's how we know. One day last year, a local drug dealer chucked an empty bottle of wine through our window. And we were out shopping, actually, and our neighbours sprang into action. They called us, they stood guard, they called the police, they bollocked the police for not doing enough, and they helped us clear up. And the thing is, what could have been an awful experience for us was a good lesson. It showed us how things are changing. It showed us the secret sauce. So that's 15 houses, and our plan is for 100, which isn't about greed. It's simply that we know people's lives will be made better by doing these things. So over to the system. When a couple of years ago, when the government's Levelling Up department visited, lots of SPADs came, really nice people, including Michael Gove, and they saw the potential of what we're doing. But ultimately, nothing came of it, nothing happened. Until early 2024, when our local council received £3 million earmarked specifically for retrofit in the heart of East Marsh. So crucially, the council did acknowledge that this money was intended for the work East Marsh United does. But here's the problem. If we had that £3 million, we'd simply buy more houses and immediately deploy our secret sauce. But instead, the council's involvement turned this into a top-down project. The contractors, the project managers, all outside firms would have little say, and our fear was realised. It's now nearly 2 years later, and nothing has happened. The bureaucracy in the council and the bureaucracy of needing approvals from landlords that you can't find and transient tenants has caused total paralysis, which is the problem, really, we exist to solve. So this is the system blocking the source. And the conclusion of this is about the universal ingredients, because our recipe for success won't work for every place, every neighbourhood, must solve its own problems according to local circumstances. And talking about the Pride in Place money, unfortunately, as I understand it, the money in Grimsby is already spoken for and beyond our influence. The funding is managed by two elite groups, the town board and our future, making very grand pronouncements, but neither group truly knows how to make a difference to a place like ours. They haven't had the smallest taste of our secret sauce. So despite that, the ingredients are universal. 1, trust the vision. Recognise that local knowledge and community power trump grants. 2, transfer the power. Dismantle dependency, grant residents agency and self-determination. And 3, deliver the resource. Empower local people as the owners and operators for forever projects. Like all the people who have spoken so brilliantly today, we are ready to deliver. But funders and government must choose to step up, transfer the power, provide the resource, and get out of the way. Thank you.
Billy, thank you so much. I'll just let you know, on our Create Streets team chat, there are a number of people saying Billy is such a great speaker. He's so inspiring. That's the problem with having you speak last and having to speak after you. Is that there's very little to say afterwards. I can see in the chat though, there's someone saying, yes, Billy. I think now, if there are any questions on the chat that I haven't seen, then we should send them straight. So hold on, let me just have a quick look. I suppose a question for me though, Billy, is what would you... So I know Brian talked about his relationship with the council and how it sort of evolved over time. I wonder, maybe this is part a question for Brian, part for Billy, but what, Brian, you would say to what Billy's challenge has been around working with the council. I mean, and I have to admit, Billy and I have been trying to work on something in the East Marsh together for a while, and I have exactly the same. We have the same experience of it being a challenge. So Brian, if you're there, I wonder if you would have any thoughts on what Billy was saying around the system. Brian, are you there? Brian's not there. Well, Brian is... Oh, yeah, Brian, you are there. Oh, yeah, you're unmuted.
Yes, I am. Sorry, my signal keeps dipping in and out, but I heard the initial part of the question, as in how have we kind of improved our relationship with council. It's just reminding them that we're not going anywhere. we're going to be here, and we have real kind of knowledge about need and people and the locality, and that's an asset. And it's about kind of gently reminding, keep smiling is another thing, keep smiling and gently reminding, the
Oh. I'm not sure if that's Brian or if that's us.
lobby for, you know, local knowledge considerations.
Sorry, Brian, we kind of missed a little bit of what you said there. Maybe just try and repeat it. And the second bit of my question had been about what Billy was saying about the system. I think maybe just your last couple of sentences we missed, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's been, as I said, it's important to stay kind of calm and rational, because we can very easily kind of get caught up in you know, the frustrations of what we're trying to do. So it's about continuing to remind and align yourself to the council's objectives, as well as kind of continuing to lobby for that community involvement, and that the importance of people, bringing people alongside the development of place, because buildings are just buildings at the end of the day.
So there've been a few questions about the person who organised the scanning of cables. So George, can I let you answer about that? There was a great photo once upon a time of Jackson, maybe you as well, with full high-vis gear on and scanning. So they're basically asking how you managed to do that. I mean, anyway, I'll let you answer.
Yep. So there are training courses up and down the country. So a few members of the team signed up onto that CAT scanning. For those of you that don't know what a CAT scanner is, it's probably helpful to outline what that is. It's basically a handheld device which ultimately scans what utilities are buried in the ground. So that has, of course, been really useful for us in a lot of the tree planting work we've been doing, particularly in the grass verges, but sort of the street tree planting, there's been a lot of work there alongside the council, and they've taken on a lot of that sort of utility checking too. So yeah.
There's also a question of who takes care of maintaining the projects and covering the costs that come with them.
Which projects? The trees?
I think it's probably the trees. Well, maybe murals as well, actually, but I'm not sure what.
Predominantly with the trees, that's something that we do. So at the moment, we've got every 2 weeks, we do sort of community gardening day, open invites for anyone who's interested to come along and maintain that. It is, of course, on adopted highway land. So there had been consultation with the local tree officer to make sure that tree species are in line with their sort of standards and what they'd accept on the highway. So that's, again, community led and also community maintained going forward. Again, sort of circling back on that point around ownership and stewardship, it's really important that the community are involved in that.
Am I right, though? You correct me if I'm wrong on the details, but if I'm right, I think what happened was that there was an highways officer in Medway who'd seen what you guys were doing, thought it was a great idea to plant trees, and he had a speed reduction program underway and sort of thought that stealthily he could include a bit of digging up of tree pits in that program, because it's so much less expensive to do it when you're piggybacking off another project. And then once you've done one, then you've sort of sold the case a bit, and then it's much easier to get the next one done. Yeah,
that is spot on. The focus of their project was namely road safety. So the tree planting was sort of an additional bolt on to that we got quite fortunate with. I think it has helped give us a slight idea of how we might approach it in the future. But that's something we're trying to work out now. So going forward is, what is that model for planting street trees on rain gardens and building those outside of a multi-thousand-pound scheme? Because there are no more phases to that road safety project. So obviously going forward, we have to see how can we become independent of that. But there has been some community groups in other places where they've used, for example, shared prosperity funding to namely do similar things like rain gardens and street tree planting. So that might be something we'll explore.
Thank you, George. We are bang on 1:30, but Nicholas is going to say a few things, I think, to sum up. So I shall leave him a minute to do that. Are you there, Nicholas?
I am here. Yes, thank you. And Ellen, do you, or what echoed everyone. Listen, thank you all for coming. People are starting to leave because we're now at time. I won't try and summarize everything because I will be here for the next hour. But so many interesting things there. We'll put out a blog trying to pull some of those inspiring ideas. The point of this conversation was not to say, do what Billy's doing, do what Roxanne's done, do what George's doing, but just to share ideas for all of you as you'll be responding to Pride in Place and more widely. have lots of ideas, some will fail, build partnerships with housing associations and councils, disagree amusingly so that you've still got your bridges there, make use of social media and localize it, do care about what streets do to your place, as Greg was saying, have a vision, find alliances even with people you won't necessarily think you're going to have alliances. If you possibly can, have technical skills, and care about the history of the place, things like water fountains, which may seem superficial, and trust to the goodwill of people. In our experience, consistently, people don't vandalize what their neighbours or their brothers or their sisters have done. Obviously, there are exceptions. And above all, thank you to everyone who's been doing the hearts and the hands, because my screen, and presumably most of yours, has been a sort of constant smorgasbord of hearts and hands and sort of exploding flowers, which is a very nice thing to see on a Wednesday lunchtime. So thank you very, very much indeed. We're 2 minutes over. I apologise. It's my fault for going on too long. We'll send a blog round. Thank you to our speakers. Thank you to all. We're done. Thank you. Goodbye.